you were in Africa, right? South Africa.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then I follow your newsletter, and sometimes you're sending from South America and Chile. I think one time you were there, right? And then, and you were part of this program in this company called Remote Year. How's everyone doing today? You are tuning in to LinkedIn Live with Fanny Dunnigan. Well, today I have a very special guest, and just a little brief history. One of the reasons I invited this guest on is we actually met, I think, 2 years ago. And ever since I saw a post of his, I felt very connected to who he was and his message. And again, the importance of creating content, because sometimes you never know who you're going to touch with your content and what kind of connections you're going to make. So everyone, please help me in welcoming Mr. Jordan Carroll.
Hey.
Hi, Jordan. Welcome all the way from Mexico, right?
Playa del Carmen, Mexico. Sí.
Now
¿Cómo estás, Fanny?
An accent.
¿Cómo estás, Fanny?
I don't know.
Bien, bien, y tú?
Bien. Oh, welcome. Jordan Carroll, the Remote Job Coach, official member of the Forbes Coaches Council. Thank you for joining me. For those of you in the audience, Jordan and I met through Chantel Seamus. She was interviewing you, and Chantel's another great content creator on LinkedIn. And you were talking about living the remote life. And I was so curious about it because I love travel. And that's how we connected. We just started talking from there in the comments, right?
And the relationship continues.
Budding
friendship. And Fanny, I can't say enough about how inspirational you are. Like that.
Oh.
That's the little speech before this. I was starting to tear up. I was like, "Are you really going to bring me on right now?"
Oh, stop. So for those of you out there, Jordan is a remote job coach, and he helps to create content, courses, and coaching programs to help high performers learn a proven process to land legitimate remote jobs, gain freedom and flexibility in their lives. And Jordan, you've done a lot. I mean, you've worked across Fortune 50 tech companies. You also were part of a remote first travel company. And I want to talk a bit more about that later. And then also part of a lot of startups. And, as well as your own business. Right?
I've been blessed to have a mixed variety of experiences that I think has given me a very unique perspective to be able to do the job that I do, and actually do something that I really, really enjoy doing. And I really appreciate you having me on. So
my pleasure.
I'm interested to hear what kind of questions you're going to grill me with.
I know, right? So today the whole topic is secrets of finding remote work. Because Jordan, you've been doing it for a long time, way before this COVID-19 pandemic, like before we were forced to work remotely.
Yeah.
You were doing it for the sheer pleasure of working remotely. Right? So tell us about that lifestyle, right? What is the definition of remote work, and how has it evolved?
Well, and one of the interesting things that you mentioned was about telling origin stories, right? So very weird thing is that I went back into my origin story this past week, and I had realized that my first time working remotely was this telemarketing gig that I had in college.
Yes.
There was an insurance company that I was interviewing with, and this insurance company had said to me, "Hey, we really like you. You're a young guy. You got a lot of great ambition and talent, but you don't have enough sales experience." So I said, "Okay, well, I'm going to go find a sales job." I already had 2 part-time jobs at the time. I was working with some organizations on campus. I had a full-time course load, and I was like, let me jump on some telemarketing calls and sell a few things and bring it back to them and show them, hey, like you said, I don't have enough sales experience. I will go out and get some sales experience between now and the next time we talk. That never happened. They went with somebody else who had already had experience, who had been outside of the university system, already had a sales position before. So they ended up going with them. But with that signified two things to me, though. One of them was confidence in my ability to go out and do something and take action where there was maybe a gap in my skills or in my experience. And then there was also this whole side of me that was like, wow, this kind of remote flexible thing is pretty cool, right? Like I basically just needed my phone and my computer.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening was I ended up working for IBM, which was an even better organization to work for than the insurance company that I was going to work for. And we had a snow day. I was living in Boston, Massachusetts. We had a snow day and I was in training. We were commuting about an hour and a half each way. And the snow day effectively was my first day working remote. And I tell you what, I took full advantage of just sleeping in. It was like, I'm going to sleep in longer. I'm going to work from my bed. You know, I'm going to basically use this time as a hangover buffer, like whatever I could figure out as far as like making that situation a good thing for me. But over time, what I realized as I started to work remotely more, I ended up negotiating to be remote at least one day a week with that during the training period. And then once I was done with that, I became a full-time remote employee. I did have to travel on site to customers, but anytime I was not at a customer, I was remote kind of wherever I wanted to be. And what I realized was this actually had a deeper impact on not only my lifestyle, but my health and my relationships and everything that I wanted to create out of my life. I could because I was remote and not having to commute and not having to feel the pressure of being in an office. So that's when I really figured like, oh, wow, this is going to be a big deal for me. Right. And the way that I see this all developing even further is, you know, remote work is, let's just clarify, right now is not remote work. This is not.
Tell me more. What does that mean?
This is like, hey, we're in a pandemic and we can't go outside. Everybody stay in and try to act normal and work from home. This is what this is. Remote work is the freedom to go to a local coffee shop, work out of the coffee shop, enjoy the experience of the freedom and flexibility, to enjoy the experience of potentially traveling, visiting a friend, staying there for some amount of time while you get your work done. It's the freedom and flexibility. That's what we don't have right now. So I just want people to understand, like this, if this is the first time that you're working remotely because of this, I don't want that to taint the impression of what remote work actually is designed to be.
And the very first time I interviewed you was you were in Africa, right? South Africa.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then I follow your newsletter, and sometimes you're sending from South America and Chile. I think one time you were there, right? And then, and you were part of this program in this company called Remote Year, which I found to be such a fascinating idea. Before we dive a little deeper, like tell people about this concept of Remote Year and this company that you're with.
Yeah. And what's up, Trevor? I see he's shouting me out in the comments. So Remote Year is a program that essentially for a monthly fee takes care of all of the different logistics of traveling and working remotely. You bring your own remote job. You have a remote job and you want to travel. You pay this company money. They'll provide you with the community. They'll buy all your flights. They have a wide range of different countries that they go to, and you have like an itinerary that you travel to with this group of people. So I left in March of 2018 for 4 months with 40 people that I had never met in my life. I had just gone through a breakup and I said, I'm getting out of the country. I'm quitting my job. I'm moving apartments. I left Portland, Oregon, and I said, I'm going to go travel. So I went to 3 cities in Europe. I went to Lisbon, Portugal, Split, Croatia, Prague, Czech Republic. And then the last one was in South Africa. I went to Cape Town. So from there, I actually got a job with Remote Year. And I want to clarify to everybody, if you want to know about secrets, so we want to get the first secret out of the way. Become a customer of the company that you want to work for. Because when you have a customer-centric vision of what the customers are experiencing from any company. So let's use Remote Year for an example. I actually wanted to work at Remote Year, but I also wanted to do the program. So I figured in my head, like, okay, well, why don't I go do the program, become an essential part of their community, get to know the coworkers and different people, employees in the organization. And then by the time that their job openings happened, 2 people had already submitted my resume. I never formally applied. So
Yeah.
like that's a huge thing, right? And you think about it, like, find all these target companies and figure out if you can't become a customer, if that doesn't make sense, then what parts of the communication process are you experiencing as a potential customer? Have you joined their newsletter? Are you following them on social media? Are you seeing what kind of content that they're putting out into the world? Because you can use that to your advantage when it comes to understanding what it is that they need.
Awesome. Yes. And also, like, how did you transition then to your own company right now, right? You exclusively coach people now on finding remote work, right? What led you to this place?
Yeah. Well, so when I first joined Remote Year, I was coaching. That was what I was doing. Because you had to have a remote job, right, to be on the programs. So when we talked in Africa, I was doing career coaching. But then what had eventually happened was, as I worked more within the Remote Year ecosystem, I realized how many people were calling us thinking that we were providing the work, which we weren't. So that validated, one, the need. And then I also was like, hey, I've worked remotely for many years now. So I have an expertise and an ability to get remote work with a variety of different companies that I think can help others.
Yeah.
And that's really where I was like, I put the 2 and 2 together. I was like, I'm already helping people do this. I'm already putting myself in a position where they're trusting me with helping them, guide them in their career. And if you think about our last video, remember the video that you introduced me? We were talking about resume stuff. We were talking about job search. Like, that's what we were talking about, because that's where I was at that time. And then it just has really niched down into me realizing, like, hey, this remote thing is the future, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is where I want to be. So over the course of the past 2-3 years, that's really been what I've targeted on.
So as far as job seekers, I mean, you help job seekers find remote work, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is their biggest struggle right now? What is the pain point? What do people always ask you about?
I see kind of like I don't want to say completely linear, because people fall into different spectrums of this, but I see quite a few different things. One is desperation, right? Because we're in a time where, one, they're desperate not to go back to an office, or 2, the circumstances that are happening in the world right now has created a desperation for them, need for income, need for
40 million,
freedom,
right? Unemployment.
It's pretty crazy. So that doesn't help, right? Like, that's a big challenge already to go into a job search when you're desperate. It doesn't put you in the best spot. And then they get kind of overwhelmed, because there is a lot of information out here right now, as far as, like, if you search online remote job, like, you're going to find like a ton of different listings. You're going to find a ton of different websites, but it's hard to know how to navigate those things, right? Like, navigate what do I look at first for where I'm at in the process, what's most relevant to me. So they get kind of stuck. And what happens is you just don't do anything, or you become paralyzed by that. And that becomes frustrating, because then you start sending out applications, you're getting ignored, you start to get angry, and you start to get uncertain. And all of this is basically a big feedback loop. And if you think about feedback loops in our lives, when we go through things that are particularly traumatic, or they reinforce a negative experience, we stay in that negative experience, and then you start expecting. You used to get so discouraged that you start expecting to fail.
And then we're in our heads. It just loops in our heads. Yes.
And it's really hard to get out of that, because once you started to place that doubt and you lose that confidence, then you're really doing a disservice, because every time that you send out any communication to any company, they feel that
Yeah.
They feel that you're desperate. They feel that you're frustrated. You don't do your best work. Trevor and I, when we were on
Yeah.
our discussion, he had talked a lot about how to start building
Shout
authentic
out to Trevor
relationships.
Houston real quick.
Yeah,
The Who You Know Job Networking Show at 3 p.m. Central every Wednesday.
everyone
So
knows it, right?
check it out.
And we had talked
Yeah.
about like this exact trend happening, and this is where it creates that huge line at the front door too, where hiring managers are just getting bludgeoned by desperate job seekers,
Yeah.
and that's really tough because then you don't stand out.
Yeah. So then what are your tips? Like what is a better way to find these remote opportunities on LinkedIn?
Yeah, so if we're talking about LinkedIn in specific, I mean, obviously there's quite a few different places that you could find remote work, but LinkedIn in all of its glory, which we're streaming on right now,
Yeah.
is the mecca of everything. Like, and here's why: because LinkedIn is not only the place that hosts your personal brand, your resume, your
Mm-hmm.
background, but
Yeah.
it also is a place that allows you to connect and communicate with people you would have no other way to do that with. Either way, it has the job listings, it has a
Yeah.
recruitment platform, it has the content platform. It's literally everything everywhere. Like LinkedIn is everything everywhere. So
Yeah.
the ways that you can, I mean, you obviously can sort in the LinkedIn jobs remote, and the number of listings that have now been remote is increased. So that's great. And you can
Oh, you
even,
mentioned before, like I think there's some group, right, exclusively for remote work.
there's a bunch of different groups actually. Yeah. So um, there's a bunch of
Tell
different
us
groups that
another
have,
secret, Jordan.
oh, secrets.
Tell
Um,
us the secret group.
oh, they're public. So yeah, so you can search remote in a remote group in the search
Mm-hmm.
bar, and then
Mm-hmm.
sort by groups, and you'll find a plethora of groups. What I recommend is that if the more specific you can get in those search terms, the better, right? So if you can search, if you're looking for a customer service role, then you should be looking for either groups or people that have that type of role,
Mm.
and be connecting with those people. Create an ecosystem, create a feed, create the LinkedIn experience around what it is that you want. So future pace, right? Like look at where you're at now, look at where you want to go, and say, how do I create the
Mm.
ecosystem and the feed of my LinkedIn to look more like the opportunities that will get
Mm.
me what I want. So if it's a remote customer service job, you should be looking for customer service groups, specifically
Ah,
remote customer service groups, if you can get that specific. Or you mix between the two, or you search in content, right? You can
mm.
segment on LinkedIn. You can search by content and by hashtag. You should be
Yeah.
following all of those hashtags.
What
You
are
should be,
tell us, what are some good hashtags to follow when it comes to remote work, Ashley?
yeah, I mean, it's going to be whatever that person specifically is interested in, right? Remote work
Mm.
is obviously a very broad one. You can have some broad ones, and you want to have some more niche ones. You want to kind of spend time within both. But the idea is that, again, we're curating an experience so that
Yeah.
every time that I go onto my LinkedIn on my homepage, it's curated to show information that is relevant to what my goals are. And
Mm.
what a lot of people do is they just add everybody,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or they
It's
don't
not
put any
targeted.
intention. Yeah, there's no intention or thought into the fact that, hey, who I add into my network is going to be reflected in what I see every day. So if
Yeah.
I'm adding, a random person from a different country that has a completely different role, that doesn't have a picture on their profile, that misspells things in their titles, like, is that going to help you get where you want to go? And is
Yeah.
that going to show you opportunities in your feed?
Yeah.
And the answer is probably not, right?
Yeah. And shout out again to Trevor, like follow companies that you want to work for, right? It ties in exactly with your message about be very specific and targeted, right? With who
Yeah.
you connect and follow. For
And that
sure.
actually, you show up differently in the
Mm.
recruiter side. So if there's a recruiter for a company, here's a couple other quote unquote secrets.
Yeah.
But if a recruiter is on the recruiter side of LinkedIn and they are searching for candidates for a specific position, and you have followed that company and you've engaged with that company page, the algorithm is actually going to place you higher in the search result when that recruiter goes to look. So they're going to have different filtering systems, and some of those filtering systems are going to be filtered on the type of skills match that you have. So if you have a particular like each job has like the skills, right? And those are the endorsements, right?
Yes.
So if you look at a job on LinkedIn and a particular job requires you to have customer service as an endorsement, customer support as an endorsement, technology, like whatever the keyword is, you have to have all those in your endorsements. And you can just add them as skills. You don't even have to have them endorsed, but as long as you have them as added skills on your profile, you will show up as matched. It's just part of the qualification. It's just like the applicant tracking systems, right? They have certain criteria because there is no possible way that they could sift through the hundreds, sometimes thousands of remote job seekers. So you need to figure out how it is you can most match those particular job roles.
And even me, like as I help a company called Delaware Consulting with SAP talent acquisition. And a lot of times as I'm going through their profiles, I always do a double take if they're already following our company page.
Yeah.
So if they're already following our company page, because in the recruiter profile, I can see exactly how long they've been following the company page. And if I've seen that they're like a longtime follower, then I know that they really are interested in the company and they really have a desire to either follow our content or work with us. So that's important to me. And it specifically says followers since September 2019 or something on the recruiter page. So
and it's funny how as recruiters, you have to create ways to qualify people. And sometimes it's not fair. But you know what? Life's not fair. So this whole job search process is not about you being the most qualified. It never will be, because you will never be the most qualified for any job. There will always be someone who's more qualified. So what you need to do is find other unique ways in the door. Relationships, engaging with content, backdoors, right? Things that create more of a relationship or a connection to that particular company or to people that work in a particular company.
So how can job seekers stand out, right? Where rather than being in the black hole of the ATS system, right? How can job seekers stand out for these remote jobs? And by the way, for those of you in the audience, drop us your questions and we'll feature them and get Jordan to answer them as well.
You know, Fanny, I think you had one of the best examples of this that I've heard, which is look at the job descriptions and create content based on the keywords and requirements in job descriptions. Like create something that is specifically valuable to them.
I'll pull up my YouTube video of that. Thank you. Thanks for the shout out.
Absolutely.
What else? While I pull this up.
Trevor talks about BombBomb. I like Loom, but I think Trevor's sponsored, so I think he has to say BombBomb. But you can create video applications to explain your expertise rather than traditionally just sending in a resume, right? You can send it with a video that gives you a little bit more, what we're trying to create, let's back up. What we're trying to create is trust. We're trying to create trust with the other person on the other side of the screen, right? And how do we do that? Well, it's hard to do that through text. But as Fanny had mentioned, through video content, it's very effective to do that. Through video applications, very good to do that. And Andy, Team Loom with you, we're gonna make this like a huge thing. There's another program called Dub as well, D-U-B-B, who I bought, like they had a lifetime deal for their premium, which was like $50 forever. So I was using them for a while, but I still like Loom too. So you can create this content around what is your expertise. And this is also useful because think about it, when an organization finds out about you, what do you think they're going to do? they're going to try to find you online.
Yes,
They're going to search you
absolutely.
online. That's the first thing.
Absolutely.
That's the first thing any of us do. Like
Yeah.
if I hear about a restaurant, what's the first thing that I do? I go online and see what other people are saying about it.
Yeah.
Right. So we need to create the narrative around. Trevor's going to be on this forever. We need to create the narrative around what people find when they search us.
Yeah.
Right. And it looks like you have a great example here. So let's see it.
Yeah. So like, no, I just wanted to point people to my YouTube channel, self-plug, Fanny Dunnigan.
Subscribe.
Please
Fanny
subscribe.
D.
Thank you very much. But yeah, there's a video here that I created on how to create LinkedIn content that lands jobs. And it talks about all about how to leverage job descriptions and pulling out keywords and creating content around that. So feel free to watch that. That's on my channel, Fanny Dunnigan. But yeah, I mean, that's how you're going to get notice. For instance, if you're applying for a certain job and they're looking for somebody that knows how to build teams, and you happen to have an article or video created all about how to build effective teams. So rather than just sending them your resume, you can point them to this article or to this video that you've created. And suddenly they're kind of learning from you versus just reading a blank but reading a resume just full of achievements and experiences.
It's a passive versus active process.
Yes.
So if I'm showing this proactivity within the job search process, now imagine when I'm working for you.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the key, is like how do we create that trust and de-risk them hiring you?
Yeah. I mean, Michael Smith says, create content around what is your unique value proposition, right? That's what we're talking about to help you stand out as a thought leader, especially for those experienced job seekers, right? Those with 15 or more years of experience. By that point, you're an expert in something. You've really developed and honed your skills and experience around something. So start creating content. Don't you think? I mean, what's been your experience when employers see these kind of content from job seekers?
They feel like they know them.
Yeah.
Right. And here's the key, is throughout each point of the interview process, throughout the initial screening to the first real interview with someone from the hiring managing team, to the second interview, to whatever their process is, you have to do two things. One, you have to be different in some way than everybody else.
Yeah.
Just different, right?
Yeah.
Grab attention, find a way to uniquely identify yourself. Two, you have to convince them that you are more than competent to be able to do the job.
Yeah.
So competence within the job, difference within who you are. And part of that is building a relationship with them, right?
Yeah.
And being, not being likable for the sake of being likable, but have you ever been in a situation where you've liked or disliked working with somebody? Probably.
Absolutely.
So they are looking for someone they want to work with. And here's the key, is like, if you and one other person are in the last stage of a process and they like you more as a person, even if you're not as qualified, even if they don't think that you're going to be able to out of the box do the job as well, they may have to do a little bit more training, but if they like you, and if there's multiple people on the team, they're like, hey, I like had a really good connection with them. I think they fit the culture. The biggest thing with remote is culture, because you're not creating an in-office culture. It just creates a lot of questions around how you're actually going to fit in when you're working with people across text, across email, across a lot of different low bandwidth communication methods. Of course, culture is important in person, but it's a little bit more predictable if you come into the office and I can read your body language and I can really get a sense of who you are. And we go out to lunch and that's part of the interview. Like, I feel like I'm going to get a better sense of your energy that way than if I'm just doing it over Zoom. So you have to create as many opportunities as you can to de-risk that for them, create the trust, create the connection, and hopefully they like you, and hopefully you like them. This is a two-way process. If you don't like them, don't interview. Don't work for them. I
Yeah.
had 2 clients this week that said no to interviews.
Yeah.
It sounds crazy, but in both circumstances, those companies and their impression that they got from those companies was that this was not the right opportunity for them.
And
And
how
so
do you
we,
form like an impression of the culture when it's remote? Like how do you make that feel of what the culture is if all of it's remote and it's somebody
Mhm,
on the other side of a screen? Like any thoughts
yeah.
around that?
So do you mean from the employer side or from the
From the job seeker side,
job
how do you
seeker
know
side?
you're going to fit
Yeah.
into the culture of that company if you're interviewing through Zoom
Yeah.
or over the phone? Like any thoughts around
You
that?
won't. You won't know. And actually, neither side will know for sure, right?
Yeah.
But use
Yeah.
your intuition. If there
Yeah.
are red flags, so I'll just kind of speak to why one of my clients decided not to interview with this company.
Hmm.
She had originally had an interview scheduled many weeks ago.
Yeah.
They canceled the interview and they said to her, "Hey, we are in a position where we're going to go a different way with this." 15 minutes before the interview, didn't even
Oh,
interview her, just sent her an
wow.
email out of the blue. And so she's like, okay, well, and we worked on a follow-up email to get feedback, right? So we sent
Hmm.
feedback,
Yeah.
like a form so that she could get some feedback on what she could do better. We tried to just figure out like why this happened. And lo and behold, a month later, they come back and say, hey, we'd like to proceed with the interview process if you're still interested. We said, okay, great. Like, let's go through with it. She gets ghosted on the interview. She goes to go to the interview
Wow.
and
Yeah.
lady doesn't
Action
show up.
speaks louder than words.
And she sends us,
Wow.
hey, I got really sick. I'm so sorry. It totally blanked my mind. And we had a call about this. I was like, hey, do you think that this is going to happen more if you start working for them?
Yeah.
And we came to the conclusion that, yeah, this is probably a sign
Yeah.
of a level of disorganization that is not the right place for her to be.
Got it.
So we
Yes.
respectfully declined that, right? And
Yeah.
I think that that's important to know your boundaries too, right? Like
Yep.
have certain principles, values, boundaries that you
I
live
love
by.
that.
And when you look at an organization, go on Glassdoor, find out what people are saying about the organization, find out if you can create any connections. This is why informational interviews are so important. You got to try and get connected with somebody at the company prior to working there and get really a good
Yeah.
sense of that culture if you can.
And I mean, this is not I guess a secret, but I think it's worth saying, like, really know your boundaries and check out the company and their culture through Glassdoor. I love that.
Mhm.
Let's go to the comments and see what people are saying here. Michael Smith, yes, we saw that one. Create content. Oh, Philip Goodrich. Has anyone ever used video endorsements from former customers or supervisors? Oh, that's an interesting concept to have your former supervisor or whoever you were reporting to give a video endorsement. Have you ever seen that, Jordan?
I have. I haven't seen it used in this particular use case, but I've
Yeah,
seen it on people's websites
yeah,
and I've seen people point to their websites in general, but not like directly link, hey, this is it. So I think here, listen, any way you can get creative and do something
yeah.
like that, test it out. Like I think it could only help you, not hurt you.
And then this one from Mohammed. We need to tailor our resumes according to keywords, but how to maintain a balance between the resume and the LinkedIn profile. Yeah, so actually I'm curious about that too. Like I've seen resumes that are very keyword rich,
Mm-hmm.
but because they're so like it's so heavy on keywords, I don't even know if they're doing it because they have the experience in it or they're just
Yeah.
trying to pop up in my search results. What are your thoughts on that?
So I think in terms of common denominators, and I think what he's trying to get at is that he may have a lot more experience than
Mm,
just one role that he's going after.
mm,
Let's start from the beginning. In a job search, you should be as targeted as possible. If you
mm.
could only search for one type of position, I would just target that one position.
Yeah.
But if you're someone who is going to be targeting a couple of different types of positions, you will have to have multiple resumes, right?
Mm.
And I think what he's saying is if I'm going after multiple, types of resumes, how do I distinguish between that discrepancy between my resume right here doesn't show that I have all this other experience that's on my LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's no easy answer. It's always like an individual basis, but the more targeted you could be in your search, the better. And then I would look for the common denominators between the keywords of the types of roles you're looking for. So I would actually go to job listings. I would write down, like I would keep URLs of specific job listings.
Yeah.
I would batch this work too. Another secret, batch work.
What does that mean?
In a job search, if I'm going to be searching for positions
Uh-huh.
or applying or doing X, Y, and Z, I'm going to do these things only one at a time. So if I have an hour of time, I'm not going to save job listings and then apply and then reply to messages. I'm only going to do one thing. I'm only going to be saving job listings. So for me, it's because the brain only works when you're focused on certain types of activities. So if you're constantly switching in between tasks, say that I pull up an interesting job listing and I'm trying to find jobs to search for. I pull up an interesting one and I get into this rabbit hole of like, oh, wow, this is really cool and interesting. Now I go in and look on LinkedIn. I find all the founders. I find all the people. I start doing this, start doing that. And all of a sudden I've spent an entire hour on this one sliver of my search. Yeah. Whereas I could have batched 30 minutes of just saving different listings that were interesting and then spend the next 30 minutes deciding, okay, which ones am I going to actually apply to? Yeah. Or how do I pull my keywords? And then I would just pull keywords. And then you look through and you look at the requirements of those different listings, take the keywords and plug them in. I have a spreadsheet actually that I have for this too. And you plug those in. And once you put those in there, you find the common denominators. It's like, okay, out of all these jobs, I've seen this requirement, this requirement, this requirement, this type of task. Here's what I'm seeing across the board. Right? Yes. Effective communication or team collaboration. And then you can
pull out the common keywords also from there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. We also have from Mitch Jacobs. In addition to likability, how can job seekers gain insights into the company culture and understand how to demonstrate your cultural fit? So I think we talked a bit about like going to Glassdoor and getting a feel for the interviewer, but I like that. I think to his last question, how do you demonstrate your cultural fit for that company? So you found a company that you think has a similar culture. How do you demonstrate that you have it?
Yeah. So I think, again, this goes back to being part of their ecosystem, joining their newsletters, following their social media, intentionally engaging with content that people in the organization are putting out, right? Because when you do that, you start to join the actual conversations. You start to see how the company talks about themselves to their customers. And that way you can frame it as someone who understands that messaging. Because the key is, like, again, you're not going to necessarily be able to completely demonstrate that you're a cultural fit. Yeah. However, you will be able to see how they talk to their customers. Right. And if you know how a company talks to their customers, you can understand ideally how they want to be seen. Yeah. And so if you look on, for instance, any company's LinkedIn, and you look on their homepage, guaranteed there are posts on there that talk about their culture, that talk about what it is that they're doing, that have webinars that you can attend, that have interviews from their CEO.
Yes.
Engage with those things. Look at those things. Find out, what is it that they're putting out to the world, and how can I use that to my advantage? And it's not about lying. It's about taking that stuff and saying, oh, well, like, I have experience here. So I'll give you one example. So I have a client who found a job that in the job listing, it says unicorn. Like, we need a blank, blank, blank unicorn to join our team. She happens to have a unicorn piñata that she's kept as a mascot for her sports team.
Oh, wow.
For years. So that becomes a token of how do I incorporate this into my messaging to them about why I'm a fit for their culture? Because if they're the type of company that's using the word unicorn in their job
It's a bit of
title.
fun in there.
They're
Yeah.
silly, right? And then you
Yeah.
look at their
Yeah.
values, you look at the videos they put out, you look at pull nuggets, right?
Yes.
Pull those
Yes.
little nuggets.
Those little hints, right?
And it takes time. Here's the shit that people don't want to know. This takes time.
Yeah.
When you're desperate and you're in a job search and you feel like you need something tomorrow, I know that it's hard to invest the time to do this.
Yeah.
But the reality is, over the long term, it's going to save you time.
Yes, absolutely. I'm just typing it up. And it's not even a secret, but like it does take time, like you said.
Yeah.
And be patient,
I didn't realize
right?
we were going to rack up this many secrets. Wow.
I
thought I was given one secret.
Look at that.
Fanny, you pull all the secrets out of me. I don't know what I'm going to do with you.
See now, pull all those content pieces together and then you'll have your 10 secrets. We should add it up to 10.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. Nice round number.
Let's see what else folks are saying in the comments. Clients that feel desperate have difficulty not taking being ghosted personally. What do you tell them that helps? That's from Mitch Jacobs.
Yeah. This one's tough, but I would read The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. In life.
Say that again?
Don Miguel Ruiz wrote a book called The 4 Agreements.
4 Agreements. Got it.
Yes.
Okay.
And one of the agreements is don't take anything personally. Because here's the thing. It's never about you. People don't act because of you. They act because of them, their interests, their perspectives on the world. So this is more of just a life thing. I know that rejection can be difficult.
Yeah.
I know that it can be discouraging. But you have really 2 options. You can take it personally or you can let it go. And regardless of what you are able to do, you're going to have emotions, right? Emotions we can't get rid of, but emotions are temporary. They will pass. So you will get over that rejection. And I think the key is over time, reducing the amount of time that you feel certain emotions and let them go. That's the big thing. And that's just a life thing, right? Like, I used to take stuff so damn personal. Like, if someone didn't want to hang out with me on the weekend or didn't invite me to a party, I would be pissed. I'd be like, and I'd text them this long ass text about our friendship. And like, this was like high school, college, early 20s. But I realized like how much that I held myself back by taking things personally. And I think the more that you can reduce your attachment to things, the easier that becomes. So meditate, take on a meditation practice, read a book like the 4 Agreements, and start to try to reduce your attachment to everything in your life, not just the job search, because that will help you in the job search the more that you're practicing those things outside of it.
So let's switch it a little bit, because a lot of times in my audience, we also have a lot of HR personnel and business owners, and we are definitely, I think, moving towards a remote work culture, right? And a lot of people will be working remote more so than they ever will be, even when things so-called go back to normal, right? So you've worked with a lot of different organizations. What's the best way to foster a culture of remote work in an organization?
So this is something that starts with leadership, really agreeing on what the vision is for the company. Because remote organizations that fall apart do not have that vision in mind, and they end up creating a culture that gets figured out. So instead of having something get figured out along the way, especially with a remote culture that you can't foster within an office, you need to know beforehand what this looks like. You have to have remote work policies, actual policies, written legal documents around the policies. I interviewed a lawyer last week, a remote work lawyer, and what she was telling me was
remote work lawyer.
Yeah, she's blowing my mind, because there's these situations happening right now where people are being called back into offices and it's illegal. It's actually illegal because these companies who've moved remote do not have that legal authority within their policies to make you come back to the office. Secondarily, they are at legal risk if they don't have any remote work policies, that if you were to, for instance, step on a child's toy at your home and break your leg, the company could be liable. Workers' compensation, because your home office is now the office. And if there is not a remote work policy around what happens if you get hurt working from home, the company can get a lawsuit.
Wow.
And then there's all these little situations that are coming up where this cultural stuff has not been thought about before. And yeah, there can be those little things like, hey, create a fun Slack channel where you can post whatever you want, and we had one in remote year where it was called the donut, where it's like an automated message that would hook you up with one other person in the company that was working in a different department, and you'd have a 15-minute call over Zoom, and you'd never met, right? So there's little things like that. There's a few people I recommend following for this kind of content. One of those would be Sasha Connor. So she is Virtual Work Insider is the name of her organization. She has been doing this for many, many years. She was the pioneer of Clorox becoming their first remote division in Clorox, and she was managing $250 million in business for 8 years.
Say her name one more time.
Sasha, S-A-C-H-A, Connor. And then there's guys at Running Remote, which is an organization they do conferences, and they do free online content. So they have a bunch of stuff on YouTube. So they're really focused on how to build remote cultural organizations and things like that. And all the stuff you're seeing right now with like these companies that have had to really jump into the remote sphere without doing it the right way, quote unquote, are finding themselves in a lot of issues because they've never thought about how to create a remote culture. They now are finding those situations where they are micromanaging, and they are like setting up like tools to track like what they're doing online. That's not how a remote organization culturally should be run. That's a dictatorship. That's a prison. So if that's your version of culture, then no one's going to want to work there.
So Jordan, final tip so that we can make it secret number 10. Give us one more secret of finding remote jobs online, or any kind of advice around remote jobs online.
Yeah. Okay. So your mindset is actually probably, I don't know if I want to do this one. Mindset.
Let's go there.
Do we want it to be super tactical or mindset wise?
No, let's go there. Let's go with mindset.
Okay. So here's what one of the biggest things this is the first thing that I talk with my clients, and they never expect that we're going to talk about this, but their mindset is the thing that holds them back from getting a job. Because again, we go back to the conditioning that they've had previously, to the fact that they think that they can't find a remote job, that all of the feedback in the world that they've gotten has been negative. Their resume is getting ignored. They have all this uncertainty around the search. So they create this world where it's not going to happen. And that's difficult, right? Because if you go into a job search and your mindset is poor, and you've already decided that this is hard, you've already decided that you can't do it, you've already decided that you're going to fail. Guess what's going to happen? Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right.
So true. So true. Let me just get to some of the comments here. We're getting lots of great comments. Wow. Here's another question. How to send a good feedback email to the company? And what are the contents we can include in the email that demonstrates that I'm the right fit for that role?
So when I see feedback, that would assume that
I guess they've had the interview.
Yeah, I want to get some clarification on that
Mhm.
question. Is that after the interview? Is that before an interview? After you send an application? Or
Yeah, let us know,
oh,
Mohammed, in the comments.
do we
Mhm.
want another secret or no?
Okay, it'll be 11. It'll be an odd number. Tell
Odd
us.
numbers are okay sometimes. Never check in.
What does that mean?
Never check in. When you have either checked in on your application or you're checking in
Oh,
on
in the
this,
email.
you sound like every other job seeker. Stop checking in. You know what you should do instead of check in? Provide some value.
Mm,
Provide some value to them. Tell them about what you would do in the first 30, 60, 90 days of being in the role.
I
Tell them
love
about
that.
something on their website they should fix. Send them an article about something in the news recently. Give them some form of value, because if you just continue to check in, you're always going to get checked out.
Oh, I like that. Don't check in, give value instead. How's that for
Ah, I
secret
can't
number
believe I gave
11?
that one up. Can't believe it. It's going to keep that
We're
one
going
for
to
myself.
extract it out of you, Jordan.
Yeah, odd
Um,
number of secrets get more views.
yes,
Yeah, that's
yes.
it. I love that.
And then, yes, mindset is crucial. That's for sure, Mitch. And I like this question. What's the ideal self-talk for the right mindset?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'd say going through, there's a couple practices that I do. One of
Mm,
those is meditation and visualization affirmations. So
mm,
each day, I do this for 5 to 10 minutes. This is not something that takes up your whole life. For 5 to 10 minutes a day, I go on YouTube. I've got a smart TV here. I turn it on, go on YouTube, and I search mindset meditation 5 minutes. And I listen to a new one every day, and I lay upright on my bed, and
uh-huh.
I listen to whatever it says. I do the affirmations, I do the visualization, I do the meditation. That's just something that calms me down, that gets me started in the right way. And then have a journal. I have a journal here. I've actually got 3 different journals, but 2 of them are like filled out, so I had to order this new one.
I'm going to
And
do it. I'm
only
going to make it secret number
Oh,
12.
so now I got to go to 13. So
Meditation, visualization,
so
affirmation.
in this journal,
Wow.
this is the high performance planner from Brennan Bouchard,
Ah.
and this
Mm-hmm.
has morning mindset. So there's prompts, right? So you can. I really like the 5 minute journal too, but they don't ship to Mexico, unfortunately. So I had to settle for
I'll
this,
ship
but
it to you, Jordan. Just
I
order
would.
it.
I don't
Send
know
it
if
to
it's.
my house.
Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna, after the amount of customs we got to pay for it. It's gonna be tough. So finding these little practices within your day that allow you to reflect. The other simple thing is reframe, right? So here's a practice. Like, instead of saying what went wrong today, ask yourself, how could I have made today even better? The questions that you ask yourself, the self-talk starts with the questions that you ask yourself. So if I'm in a situation where I'm reflecting on my day and I'm like, man, what, all this stuff went wrong, all this, instead of that, it's like, how could I have made today even better? And even
Yeah.
if you just start re-asking questions to yourself in a positive way as opposed to a negative frame, you will start to find that your answers are more focused on positivity.
Wow. Let me repeat that because it's so worth repeating. Instead of
Yeah.
saying what went wrong today, ask yourself what could have made today even better.
Yeah.
Wow. Yes.
Mind
I
shift.
think we might need another whole episode just on mindset, Jordan.
We just do mindset episodes at some
I
point.
love it. Love it. So look at that. The hour is almost up. And I just have a few more final things. And I love content creation, Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
And you create content. Gosh, when I first met you, you had your 1 minute weekly, and now you have your remote. By the way, please tell people your weekly show, your weekly live show.
Yeah,
What's it called?
remote weekly spotlight. Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern here on LinkedIn.
Yes. Yes. So definitely connect with Jordan, follow him, watch his show so you can even get even more secrets to
Yeah, and
remote job.
that's all focused on. I interview different people that have started or are in executive leadership at remote organizations, as well as people that have the insights on how to get hired at these organizations.
Yeah. So what have you learned, Jordan, from creating content? Lessons, benefits? What's been the biggest benefit you've gotten out of creating content?
So content is how I met you.
Yeah.
I think that is the only, let's just put it this way. If the only thing that happened was that I met Fanny, content's worth it. Right? If you just meet one person that because of your content, it changes your life, or it produces a relationship that you care about.
And we've done so many collaborations since then.
My girlfriend followed me and liked a photo of mine on Instagram because she liked what I had posted. Trevor and I met through a post.
Trevor Houston.
You need more of reasons than that. I don't know what they are. Like my significant other, a lot of my relationships, I've met so many people on LinkedIn in person.
Yeah.
Like the whole crew in Dallas. We should,
we need a Dallas reunion. Yes.
We did a Dallas reunion. We went out to dinner and we just had such a good time. And we went to lunch when I got there, and we were with Kyle and Katie and both Kyles, Jake. Both Jakes. I went and played basketball with Jake.
Yeah.
Melton and Kyle.
Melton, Jake Jordan. Yes. Katie Wallace.
Yep. I stayed at Kyle's house. Like this is real, man. It's not like, this is real life.
Yeah.
All because of content. Every single one of those relationships was because of content.
Yes. Yes. I would totally agree. I think that is the greatest part, because now I have friendships, connections, partners, collaborators, clients, all because of LinkedIn and all because of content. Final thoughts for the day, Jordan? One last tip for our job seeker audience when it comes.
You're really dry here. What am I going to tell my clients? Like, hey, there's nothing. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so
just a final thought.
Yeah, this is the best time to search for remote work. It sounds counterintuitive. It does, because I know there's a lot of people without work right now. I know that there's a lot of difficulties, but if you start your relationship building right now with the company that you want to work for, this is the best time to do it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these organizations, Box, Square, Upwork, Coinbase, Facebook, Twitter, Square, all of these companies are now going to be remote for the foreseeable future. That is going to happen for more companies. So if you start to create relationships now, it's like Trevor says, it's who you know, right? And it's who knows it's who knows you. So you need to put yourself out there. And if you start that process now, the desperation won't get worse later. And that's the key, is like always be putting yourself in positions where you can pivot into job roles, you can create relationships, do all those types of things.
Yes. So Jordan, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. For those of you in the audience, if you don't know him already, connect with Jordan Carroll. He is the remote job coach, and show every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern. He goes live. Follow him for more content, more tips, and gosh, what a pleasure. I'm sad it's ending. That went quick.
It's always so much fun.
Oh, man. Yes, yes. Well, Jordan, all the best. Enjoy Mexico. I'm jealous. That's the true spirit.
Come visit.
Right? Oh,
Come visit.
I should. Yes. Actually, I'm curious for all of you. Let's end on a fun note. For all of you in the feed, if travel was no problem, where would you want to work from? What city would you want to work from remotely?
¿Y qué tipo de idiomas tú entiendes? What kinds of languages do you want to learn?
Yes, yes.
Get it?
So I know. I think for me, Bali. I would want to work remotely in Bali for at least 3 months.
Yeah.
And yeah, wake up, meditate, journal, do travel vlogs,
In
head
Asia,
to the beach.
too, Asia, you don't get those distractions because you're so when you wake up, everyone's on a different time zone, so like it's so nice. But I've had to work that graveyard shift where you're trying to stay with U.S. time in Asia, and no, man, it's tough. So I don't recommend that.
Danielle says Mexico City. Trevor says Roatan. Where's Roatan? I don't know my geography. What's Roatan? Or where is it?
That's a good.
Trevor, clarify. Esther says Guadalajara, Mexico.
Roatan in Honduras.
Yolanda says Bermuda. Oh, gosh, I miss travel.
Yeah.
Okay. On that note, that vision of the beach and rolling surf, white sand, I want to thank everyone for tuning in this week. Thank you for contributing. Thank you for your questions. Thank you, Jordan, for all your secrets. And for those of you out there, keep creating content. Let your light shine and share your value through video. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.